Now we're recording. Okay. So we are going to pick up here where we left off last week, and that was we are still in the midst of the debates between Rabbi Yehoshua ben Hanania and the sages of Athens, the Athenian sages. I'll just tell you personally, I have a new appreciation through this whole experience of learning these sugyas, a new appreciation for Rabbi Yehoshua that I get so excited every time I'm learning something else. I'm learning a different Mishnah, I'm learning a different Gemara, and Rabbi Yehoshua comes up. I get so excited because I'm like, we have context of who this person was now and the type of ideas that he discussed. And it's again, it's part of the idea of connecting ourselves to the Jewish history aspect of the Tanaim and the Amoraim. And I personally, I thank every one of you for humoring me and letting me speak out these ideas that I really gained a true appreciation for Rabbi Yehoshua ben Hanania, and whenever he comes up, it's very exciting for me. Okay, so we have tonight with us another couple. We're going to do three. Ideally, we're going to do three more tests tonight, which is going to be test 5, 6, and 7. And we're going to see, as always, the tests on the surface seem very, very simple and very, very, almost like silly. But we're going to see the deeper understanding that is really going to help us see some very, very powerful ideas and things that hopefully we can relate to. So the next of the stories is as follows. The Gemara continues and says, these tests are kind of just becoming like rapid fire at this point. They're just like throwing things out to Rabbi Yehoshua and he's responding. So
Honey, why don't you come here?
So we've just been so it's going to be they've been having their questions, and then he's been responding, sometimes not even verbally. So the Gemara says, "B'nei lanu beisa ba'avira da'alma." I'll just translate it as the simple translation. Build us a house in the air, meaning in the airspace, build us a house, namely between the earth and the sky. Build a house. Okay, very strange. How is he going to get out of this one? What's he going to do, right? So the Gemara says, maybe we wouldn't have expected this. Amar Shem, he uses the Shem HaMefurash, the special name of Hashem, which we know from other areas, other midrashim, gives one, mystical abilities to violate human nature, violate not just human nature, to violate nature. Right, so Amar Shem, so he said the name of Hashem, Talabain Rakia La'ara, and he suspended himself between the sky and the earth. So he actually did it. They said, build us a house in the sky, and now he elevated himself by using the Shem of Mefurish, the Shem of Hashem, to be suspended midair between the earth and the sky. So what does he say to them? So Amar Lahu, Asuki li livna vatine, said to them, raise me up bricks and mortar. Okay, like I'm here. Now give me the materials. You want me to build you a house. You got to supply the materials. Don't expect me to supply everything. I'm here, so bring me the bricks and the mortar. That is the end. And obviously the implication was, if you cannot supply the materials to the site, then how could you require that I build you a house here? Okay, that is the debate. Okay, whatever it is, they say again, build us a house in the sky. He goes to the sky. He uses the Shem HaMefurish. He goes to the sky, and he gets there. And he then says, okay, so give me the materials, and they obviously can't give me the materials, so he says, then I don't have to build you a house in the sky. Okay, what on earth is going on here? So what we're going to see tonight is that we're going to actually, we're not going to give so many interpretations on the same stories as much as move from one to the next. But we're going to see one cool thing about at least these three. It could be more than three. I only do three at a time usually when I prepare. But we're going to see the Maharal, who we often quote, is actually consistent with the next three, that they're actually considers them a package deal. So we're gonna look at the Maharal tonight, and we're going to see some of the other sources as well. But the Maharal explains as follows. And forgive me, I'm going to read from some of the Maharal inside because his words are just, they're really just beautiful. The way he presents it is a very, very powerful idea. So he says like this. Before we get to the actual words of the Maharal explains as follows. There is a common thought between the Athenians and the Jewish people. And that is that there are multiple parts of the human being. We have the physical body, and then we have the soul. Everybody agrees to that part. That part everybody agrees to. Physical body, soul, we have that. Okay. However, what they disagree about is about the connection between the two. Namely, according to our Chachamim, according to Chazal, we believe, and we'll point out a little bit of a contradiction, but for the most part, this is what we take for granted, that our soul, our neshama, predates our body, right? It existed. We all believe we're coming up to Shavuos. We believe that we were all at Har Sinai. Our souls were all at Har Sinai. We were all there. All the souls were created. The Gemara in Avodah Zarah says that Mashiach can't come until all of the souls. That's what's in this thing called the guf, which means body, but it means in some sort of celestial. I don't know exactly what it is. Some sort of location. All of the souls come to this world, implying the souls are the souls, and then they are merged in this world with the body. And we also believe, we know, that the soul exists after the demise of the body. That once a person dies, their soul lives on, right? We believe that. We say that in all of the tefillos that regard to Yisker and Kalmales. We believe that the soul is bound in the eternal bonds with Hashem. The soul postdates us as well. So we believe that the soul both predates us and postdates us. In other words, we believe that the soul, the spiritual spark that is our existence, is the essence of the human being. Right? That's what we believe. We believe we are a soul encased in a body. Right? Now, I'll just tell you one place where that doesn't seem so clear, and that is a tefillah that we say every morning. It's a fascinating question. Again, we're not going to get into the answer tonight and what the answer for this is, but we say every morning, Elokai, Neshama Shenasata Bi. My God, Tahori. So we say the soul that you placed within me is pure. Well, who's me? Who's talking? Usually we say I'm the soul and I have my body. My body is almost like my luggage, But now we're saying, in that tefillah we say Elokai Neshama Shenasata Bi. Again, I am a guf. I'm a body. That soul is placed in me. So obviously we have to understand, if we were going to talk about this at length, we'd have to go into it and explain. Obviously, there are different aspects, in regards to different things. So we're going to view ourselves as a body versus view ourselves as a soul. But primarily, in Jewish thought, we believe that we are the soul. The soul is what is the spark of us. It is the connection to God. In a sense, that's what it means that we are created in the image of God, that we have a soul, a ruach mamalala. Obviously, God doesn't have an image, so it can't be that our face looks like God. It can be like our bodies look like God, but our soul has that spiritual aspect that connects us to God. That's what we believe. That's our belief. The Maharal explains that in truth, Athenian thought, and really it's, again, he uses, he's not the Maharal, but the art school will tell you that this is just to quote it, that this is a neo-Aristotelian position. Fancy, right? Obviously, that although the soul is a separate component than the body, it's not of greater value. Yes, you need a soul. It provides that spark of life that makes you more than just a statue in a sense. But they do believe that there is that aspect of soul, something that goes beyond the body. But they believe that when the body dies, the soul dies as well. And the soul and the body were created at the same time. And there's nothing unique or special about the soul more than there is about the body. In fact, you might say that we've spoken about in the past, that when it came to the Greek school of thought, the internal was less important than the external. The external was what was important. How you present yourself, how you look, the human body and the physicality of things. It was more important than the soul. So the thought is, and they believe, again, there is this idea, I don't fully understand it, I'm not a philosopher, but they believe that the only thing that postdates a person, that exists beyond the person's demise, is their ideas, concepts. There's some sort of realm of ideas, and that realm exists, whatever. I don't know Aristotelian philosophy, but anyway, that's the idea. So he says like this. Based on this understanding, what the Athenians were saying to Rabbi Yehoshua ben Hanani was as follows. They asked him, you believe, Rabbi Yehoshua ben Hanania, you believe that your soul is your godly spark that makes you different. Now we believe not like that. We don't believe the soul has any position. But if you're going to tell me that your soul is what makes you special, and that's the essence of your being, well then, shouldn't you, the Maharal is going with a concept here that the Greeks believe in, and I think we believe in to some extent as well, that where a person is placed, where a person exists is where they are in their zone. We're not where we are by accident, right? The Maharal does talk about this in different contexts. He talks about it when it comes to animals having the strength that they are. Like you're never going to say, wow, a lion is so, the lion really worked on himself to become strong. No, a lion is supposed to be strong. That's part of its avoda as a lion, as it were. And the same thing with other animals. So where a person is, where a creature is, that speaks to their essence. So what the Athenians are saying is that if you believe that your soul is so godly, so high up, and your body is from the earth, then build me a house between the earth and the sky. That's where you should be. You shouldn't be on this earth. Your soul should elevate you so much that you shouldn't be dwelling here. It doesn't make sense that your existence is on this plane of existence. You should be on a higher plane of existence, just like the angels, right? The angels are in a different, they don't just fly around among us, right? Because they're on a higher plane of existence. If you're claiming that within you is this soul that is so spiritual, that is so special. And again, just an idea, I meant to quote this before, but again, just to show that this is our belief about the soul, the Mesilas Yesharim from the Ramchal points out in the first chapter, the Ramchal talks about how it's so clear that our purpose in this world is to fulfill the will of Hashem, is to do the mitzvot. He says it's so clear. He says, and I'll read it in English, he writes, furthermore, and again, he's listing a list of reasons why the world cannot be the object of man's highest aspiration, right? So he writes, the proof is, furthermore, if the purpose of man's creation was linked to this world, there would have been no need to provide him with a soul so venerable and so exalted that it overshadowed the angels themselves, says the Ramchal. Not just are we similar, our soul is more spiritual, is higher, is more pure than the angels themselves. And surely the soul does not derive any satisfaction from worldly pleasures. The soul, our neshama, is not shaykh, right? It is not relevant. It doesn't connect to this world whatsoever. He brings psukim from Koheles that the soul is not satisfied. He brings a parable about an ordinary townsman who marries the king's daughter. Anything that he brings, if you have an ordinary townsman who marries the king's daughter, anything he brings the king's daughter will be of no significance because she's the daughter of the king. Likewise, the soul, if one brings all of the delights of this world to the soul, it means nothing because our soul, our neshama, is purely linked to the Shemayim. And we believe that too. So he's saying, they're not just saying according to our belief, why are you here? According to your belief, why do you exist on this earth? Build me a house in the middle of the sky because that's where you belong. That's what their question was to Rabbi Yehoshua ben Hanania. And again, the Maharal points out, consistent with what we've been saying all along, that what was really behind this question, and I think this is going to get at the root of the answer, what really is behind this question, the Maharal writes, we've explained this many times. The entire intent of philosophers, and especially Greek philosophers, is to lower the man, to lower human beings into an earthly creature. Again, that's the focus on the body and to see how you could, the gymnasium and the idea of elevating the body, the physical, because that's all man is according to them. That's all human beings are according to Greek philosophy, to lower them. However, that's the opposite of Das Chachmei Yisrael. That we believe, what do we believe? We believe that yes, we are put in a body. We're put in a body and put in this world because that's where we are that's where we can do the most good. That's where Hashem can give us the most if we are in this world. And it's an opportunity for us to work for our soul. We don't want free gifts. We want to work. Our soul wants to receive, to earn the reward that it's going to get in the next world. But we believe that a person has the opportunity to elevate their body through the usage of the soul, through the satisfaction of the soul, through the tools of the soul. A person can raise their physical nature as well. And this is what he says to them. You think that we belong in the sky? You think we belong in the middle of the Shemayim between the earth and the sky? You're right. Watch this. And he says the shame of Hashem. And he flies up there. And he says, we can do this. We can attain this level. The Jewish people can attain this level. For sure. Why don't we? Why are we living here on earth? Because he says to them, give us the bricks. Give us the mortar. And obviously you can't lift that up. that he's acknowledging that, yeah, we really do, our potential lies between heaven and earth. Our potential is all the way up there. And we can work to get there. But it's very difficult to break away from that physical. We're placed in a physical shell. You can't lift the mortar and the bricks to us. I'm here, lift the, it can't, it's very, very difficult. That's what he's saying to them. We are really our potential. Yes, our soul is yearning to fly. Our soul is ready and has the ability and the potential to fly, but our physicality, which we do acknowledge, again, keep thinking back to what we've discussed in the past, that the Maharal's approach all along has been that we don't reject the bridge between physicality and spirituality. That's what the Athenians do. It's all or nothing for them. For us, we say, no, we are linked to this world through the bricks and the mortar, through the building blocks that create who we are, in a sense, as our body, but our soul, our spiritual sense, has the ability to fly up to the sky. That's what he was answering them. And I believe that there are a couple of very important takeaways from this, very practical takeaways. One is blunt, and the other is a little bit more inspiring. I'll let you choose which one you want to take. Take both. The blunt one is like this. There's a famous idea, a famous concept, I don't know who it's initially attributed to, but that when it comes to our avodas Hashem, our service of God, life is a downward escalator. Meaning that if we are not constantly stepping up, we're not constantly moving upward, the inertia, right, gravity will pull us down. That is the nature of living in the physical world. Is that, yes, our soul was encased in this physical body, but you can't easily lift those bricks, that mortar, to the sky. And therefore, if a person is not constantly working on themselves and constantly looking to grow and to go higher and higher and to step up on the escalator, again, if a person walks fast enough, you could overcome the escalator. But if you stop for a second, you're on the way back down. And that's the blunt idea that this message implies. We have the potential to go so high, but if we're not constantly developing that and cultivating that and taking those steps upward, then we're on a path on the way down. That's idea number one, a little bit of a blunt musar, just a little bit of a chizik that we always need to be working on ourselves. But here's where the more inspirational idea comes in. Now, this is an idea that I'm particularly connected to. And the reason is because, I should ask you, I should start the sentence and I can't say everybody, but some people should be able to finish it, because this idea is an idea that I spoke about at Beth Jacob when? The very, very first Shabbos that I was here. Not the Shabbos that I had the job. When I came for my Prava Shabbos, my tryout Shabbos, I said this idea over. So if you don't remember, it's okay. I won't hold it against you. But the idea is like this. I'll say when I said it as a drusha, I probably said it the other way around. The Vart and then the message. I'm going to say the message and then the Vart here now. I already said it. This is Chazara. This is a review. So, we don't appreciate the heights that we are able to reach if we are just willing to put in the work. It's the flip side of what we mentioned earlier, that if you're not constantly working, you're going to go there. This is the opposite. Is that what do we see from this message from Rabbi Yehoshua ben Hanania? What do we see from Rabbi Yehoshua? That our souls can access the highest heights. We can fly. We can climb higher and higher and achieve a level of connection to the Ribono Shel Olam. All he did was use the Shem of Hashem and he flew high. He had that connection. We can achieve that. What stops us? What stops us from doing that? Okay, we know our physical bodies sometimes, but people could do it. Rabbi Yehoshua, he can do it. There are great tzaddikim. I saw, we quoted last week, or 2 weeks ago, a piece from Rabbi Yerucham Levovitz. And Rabbi Yerucham said, he was talking about the idea of every generation, the darker the generation, the more potential light you can make. He also said in the same piece that every generation is not judged by the previous generations. No one's going to look at me and say, Yoni Danzger, why weren't you more like Avram Avinu? But they are. But a person can't. Now, again, there's an idea that a person's only judged against themselves. That's true too. But what about the people in your generation who really grew, who really strived, who really became great? So what's holding us back from becoming great? We see there are great examples in our day of people who just grow and climb and climb. What's holding us back? So for that, we need to go to Parsha Shlach. If you were starting to say for Bamidbar now, fast forward to Parsha Shlach. Again, you can't, I'm okay using this idea now because I can't reuse it in a couple of weeks, Parsha Shlach. You can't reuse the idea that you used on your Prava Shabbos just 2 years later. But anyway, but what's Parsha Shlach? So the question is, what was the sin of the Meraglim, of the spies? We know the spies did something very bad. They came, and we know they spoke Lashon Hara about Eretz Yisrael, right? They were sent out, they sent themselves out in a sense, and they spoke Lashon Hara. But if you look at what they said, they really didn't say anything not truthful, right? All they said was, they spoke about the land, they showed the fruit, and then they said one key line. They said, "V'heyu ve'einechem kechagavim, ve'einenu kechagavim, v'chein hayinu ve'eineihem." We were like grasshoppers in our eyes, so we must have been in their eyes. They were talking about the giants. They didn't start by saying, we overheard the giants saying, oh, look at those little tiny people. They said, we felt like grasshoppers in their eyes, so we must have looked from their perspective. In a sense, the ultimate sin of the Meraglim was that they did not believe in themselves, is that they labeled themselves as losers before the fight even started, before the game even started. And that's what keeps us down. Our own labels. When we label ourselves as something, I can't do that because I am X. I can't do that because I'm Y. I can't learn that sefer. I can't do that mitzvah. I can't, because that's the only thing that's holding us back. I told this story that Shabbos, but I love this story, so I'm going to say it again. That there was a student of math named George Danzig. Yeah, George Danzig. So George Danzig, the reason he's famous, a famous mathematician, but the reason he's famous is probably, first of all, because he was a genius mathematician. I don't know anything about math, so I can't tell you anything about his math, but I can tell you his origin story is very famous. His origin story is as follows. One day, George comes into class late, and he sees two math problems written on the board. So what does he do? So Liba just asked, is it that they didn't have sufficient trust in Hashem? And that is, one second, let me open up that text. Is it that they didn't have sufficient faith and trust in Hashem, if that is what not believing oneself is? So it could be. We see in other places that the Jewish people don't have sufficient faith in Hashem. But we don't see a reaction again, the point is that it seems like the Meraglim sin is different than other sins that we've seen in the Sefer thus far. It's not just like the last straw that broke the camel's back. We already saw at the Yam Suf, they didn't believe in Hashem. We saw right after that, they didn't believe, they didn't have faith in Hashem, that Hashem was going to protect them. It seems like the Meraglim was a different sin. And that's why that line of that we looked like this in their eyes. That's what I say about someone else's perspective. What right do I have to say about someone else's perspective of me, right? But anyway, so George Danzig, he's running into class, and he runs into class late, and he sees that there are two math problems written on the board. He assumes, so this is homework. He came late. The teacher must have written on the board. So what does he do? He copies them down, and he after class he goes home and he works on the assignment, and a couple of days later he gives in the assignment. 6 weeks later, I think, or something like that, he gets a knock on his door, like in his apartment or something, and it's his teacher holding up the papers and saying, George, what is this? What do you mean, what is this? This was the homework assignment. He says, George, I said at the beginning of class, these are examples of two unsolvable math problems that have not been solved for mathematicians of generations. This is brilliant work. So what was the secret? Was he the smart? Now, obviously he was very bright, but there are a lot of bright mathematicians. So what does he attribute the secret to? He never heard the teacher introduce them as impossible, unsolvable math problems. We set labels for ourselves. We set our own limitations, and that's what keeps us from flying to the sky. And that's what I believe what Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi is teaching, that we have the ability to fly high. We have the ability to soar, to strive, to grow, to connect to a higher source, to the Ribono Shel Olam, to the Torah. It's just about the limitations that we place on ourselves. Again, there are countless stories of people who just put one foot ahead of the other, baby steps, and without putting that limitation, without looking forward, without looking back, just looking where they are right now to say, I am going to just push forward. and those are the people who become great. I think that's the message for Yehoshua ben Hanania. Okay, Adkan, that's that test. Moving on to the next test. The next test was, they say to him, this is a great one. They say to him, Mitziasa de Alma Hecha. Where is the world's center? Now, obviously, they don't mean like the Earth's core. They don't mean like the center of the, the sphere. They mean, just like when a person has when a shape, a two-dimensional plane has a center. So they meant, what point of the globe is the center? Where's the middle? It's round. Where's the middle? So which he says to them, Zakva etzla etzba'aseh, Zakva etzla etzba'aseh. He extended his finger toward an indeterminate spot, which pointed to somewhere random. Over there. Where's the center of there? Right over there. So they say to him, Amruleh, Umi Yemar, who says, how can we check your work? How can we confirm? So he says, Aisuj Ashli Umishli, bring measuring ropes and measure. So it's a silly conversation. Again, how'd the conversation go? He says to them, they say to him, where's the center of the world? He just, on the spot, goes right over there. Right over there. You can't see where I'm pointing. Right over there. So they say, how do you know? How do you know? He says, what do you mean? How do I know? If you don't believe me, go bring a rope and measure it. What's going on here? Yeah, it seems silly. What's going on? So here we have the Maharsha. Well, before we get to the Maharsha, we have the Maharal. The Maharal, again, being consistent with what he said earlier in the last question, the Maharal tells us that this is actually a very interesting point. It's not, I don't have an inspirational point necessarily to go along with it, but it's an interesting point. So we'll mention it. The Maharal says this is going along the same lines as what we just mentioned earlier. The Maharal says that they say, okay, you know what, we see, that's, okay, you want to prove that your soul is so lofty, you can fly up to the sky and you want to make us look silly? Well, we're going to ask you a question that if your soul, again, the Greeks were very focused on wisdom and knowledge, if your soul is so lofty, we're going to ask you a question that, that really like a really, really hard question that nobody knows the answer to. But you, on your higher level of existence, should know the answer to. So what does I say? Where's the center of the world? You should know. So what does he do? He says, right over there. Over there. Whatever. What's he doing? What's he telling? So the Maharal says that Rabbi Yehoshua Hanani was responding to them saying, your question is nonsense. Meaning your assumption that just because I have a higher level of spiritual potential, in a sense, or a higher level of spirituality, means that I should know answers to questions that no. Basically, the Maharal explains, interesting yesod. He says that knowledge, in a sense, is relative. That if everyone in the class knows something, you can imagine look at a teacher. Now, again, there's different teaching methodologies. I'm probably going to get in trouble for, my wife's going to say, what are you talking about? But whatever. But anyway, but they're different, basically, if everyone in the class knows something and one person in the class doesn't, then usually it's a pircha, it's a question on that person. But if nobody knows something, you ask a question to the class and nobody knows the answer, so you're not going to say, hey, why don't you know the answer? You get a 0. Right? It's everything's relative, right? So what Rabbi Yehoshua Hanani was saying to them is that, like, your question is irrelevant, meaning nobody can know the answer to your question. It doesn't matter. It's not a question on the soul because you're asking me an impossible question, right? It's not a question on the soul because you're asking me a question that nobody can know the answer. It doesn't show that the soul is any diminished. It just shows that knock us all down a peg, but the soul still remains above, right? It's the great equalizer. This question knocks us all down, but if the soul is here, now the soul's here. Instead of, it's not that the soul gets lowered because you don't know the answer to this question. And they said to him, by saying, how do you know? He was just saying, like, go jump in a lake, in a sense. He was telling them, like, if you're going to question me how I know, well, then you go measure. You asked me the question, I give you an answer. It's up to you to figure out if I'm right or wrong. You could. But he was basically just pushing them off. I thought this was such an interesting point because when it comes to the scientific method, right? When it comes, this brings me back to my experimental psychology days. That we know that when a person poses the hypothesis, rule number 1, actually, I think there are like 4 rules. I don't know if there's actually rule number 1. It just sounds more dramatic to say it like that. Rule number 1 of creating a hypothesis, of presenting a hypothesis, is that it needs to be falsifiable. that if I make a claim that nobody could prove wrong, and then I could say, oh, my data backs up my claim, it doesn't mean anything because nobody could have proven you wrong. If nobody could prove you wrong, then there's no value to your right answer. If I tell you right now, I guarantee you there are monkeys doing backflips on the moon. So maybe not. Nobody can know if that's true. It's not an impressive thing to say. If I tell you something that you can look up, and we see that in Chazal too, that generally speaking, that a person is believed. It comes up when there's a big discussion about ne'emanos, about reliability and believability about different people. So let's say non-Jews, we say don't have a level of believability, reliability when it comes to halachic matters. Again, there's a discussion about you have some non-kosher food falls into some kosher food, so the Gemara says you can ask a non-Jewish baker or a non-Jewish cook to taste the food and tell you if it tastes like non-kosher. Who says you can rely on them? Who says you can trust them? We have different levels of trust in the Jewish religion in halacha. So there's a principle called if something is asir legluye, if something is going to be revealed either way, if something is if you can look it up basically, if you can confirm with someone else, then even if it's a person who generally doesn't have believability, they have believability. So I just thought this was an interesting point that the Maharal is making this point that according to Rabbi that even in the realm of the scientific method, Rabbi Shimon Hanani is pulling a fast one on the Athenian sages, even in the realm that they're supposed to be the experts, and he's the rabbi who's supposed to only know Torah knowledge. Another example that he's showing ownership over the material here over them as well. That's not what I wanted to focus on. I just thought that was interesting. What I do want to focus on is the Maharsha's answer. Now Maharsha explains as follows. Again, they say, where's the center of the world? He points. They say, how do you know? They say, go. He says, go measure. What's going on? The Maharsha explains that one of the fundamental ideas that we believe in is that Eretz Israel is the center of the world. It's the center of the world, meaning what? Meaning we believe that the world, in a sense, expanded from that place. That was the pinnacle of creation, right? That was the starting point of creation, I should say, right? It started there. And the center of that is Yerushalayim. And what's the significance of Yerushalayim being the center and Eretz Yisrael being the center? It's that is the place of the most connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Shara Shamayim, in a sense. We believe that over the Beis HaMikdash, there's a Yerushalayim Shel Mala, there's Yerushalayim Shel Mata, an upper Jerusalem, a lower Jerusalem. We believe that's where that bridge is, in a sense. What they were saying to him was, now that you're in the diaspora, now that you Jews, again, this was, Rabbi Shimon Hanani, remember, lived towards the end of the second Beis HaMikdash. And even the Jews that are still in Yerushalayim, that are still in Israel, there's no more Beis HaMikdash. You've lost your gate. You've lost your gate. So where is the center of the world now? Where do you look to now? Your center of the world has been decentered, right? Your center of the world has been taken away. Where do you look to? Where is your relationship with your God? In a sense, it wasn't as much as it seems that it wasn't as much as a philosophical question, as much as like a push, of saying that, look, maybe this was your place before, but you lost your gateway. So now the fate of the Jewish people is living diaspora, so far from the gate. And even there, again, the gate certainly doesn't function when the Beis HaMikdash isn't there. So what's your connection to God now? That's what they asked him. And what did Rabbi Shua ben Chananya do? He arbitrarily pointed. There. Meaning what? Meaning contrary to what you believe. Our rabbis teach, our Torah teaches that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is accessible to everyone, everywhere. That yes, there are places of focused Kedusha, 100%. We do believe that the Beis HaMikdash was the focal point of spiritual connection between this world and the upper realms. But at the same time, we believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is everywhere. And that's why we believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not just the Uncle Moshe song, Hashem is here, Hashem is there, but really we believe Hashem is everywhere. And that's why we refer to him as Hamakom. Right? In a couple places, we say Hamakom Yirachem Aleim, Hamakom Yinachem Eschem, we say to a mourner. Right? Hamakom. One of the names of Hashem is Hamakom. Why? Because Hashem is the place. Hashem isn't in a place. He doesn't reside in a place. Hashem is the place. Now, again, there's a very, very complicated and Kabbalistic idea called Tzimtzum. I'm not an expert in Kabbalah or in Hasidus, which bridges on Kabbalah. I'm not. The basic idea of Tzimtzum is that Hashem retracts himself to make room for the world. Hashem is ever whatever, and he, contracts himself to make room for the world. And we, in a sense, reside in the place that Hashem makes for us. But the message Rabbi Yehoshua ben Hanani was giving them was, heaven is accessible to any Jew wherever they are, wherever they seek it. That was his message. That was his message. Hashem exists everywhere. He is the place. The world resides in him, not vice versa. Now, what was their response? Their response was, how do you know? What does that mean? Who told you that Hashem is there? Which means, fantastic, which means they completely missed his answer. They completely missed it. Because when Rabbi Yehoshua ben Hanani said there, he didn't mean there. He meant there. He meant everywhere. Like he's there. He didn't even give it a thought. He just pointed. And they said, how do you know? What was that coming from? Because again, think about who we're talking to. Think about the Greek pantheon of gods. These physical, they're physical creatures with they're physical beings with godly features in a sense. You can't even call them, they reside on the mountain, but they have physical relationships and they have physical existences. And so the Athenians were so linked to this idea of physicality. Again, it's a theme among the Athenians, and certainly according to Maharal, but even the Maharsha here, is that they said, how do you know he's there? So what did he say to them? In your world, according to what you believe, so go measure. For me, there's nothing to measure. He's here, he's there, he's everywhere, he's always. But for you, you want to check my work, go measure it. Because for you, measurement is relevant. For you, measuring a location where the center of the world is a relevant question, because you believe that in order to find God, you have to go to a certain place, or you have to, whatever they did in their religion. But that's what they believed. And that was the message to that. That was the message of Rabbi Yehoshua ben Hanani. And I think this one, again, for me personally, we believe that, we do know, I'm not going to say we believe. We know that there's a concept of tefillah b'tzibur and joining together and being together and the community is a major focus for the Jewish people. The concept of community, again, we believe that's what enabled us. The fact that we became a community, Vayichan Sham Yisrael neged Ahar ki ish echad b'leiv echad, right? The fact that the Jewish people came together at the foot of the mountain of Har Sinai as one people, one body, right? One person. That's what enabled us to be the vessel to receive the Torah. But even when we're alone in our homes, even when we're separated, again, it always comes back to this. But Hashem is present in our lives wherever we find ourselves, whenever and wherever we find ourselves. A person can be completely alone, but Hashem is with him at that very moment. I think that's the idea, perhaps one idea, why we do say to a mourner, we say, Hamakum Yinachem Estem B'Soch Shar V'Yelatzim Yerushalayim, and everyone, Hashem, you should be comforted among the mourners of Zion, right? Hashem should comfort you among the mourners of Zion, in Yerushalayim. Why do we use the name Hamakum in that context? Why Hamakum specifically? Why do we say Hashem Yinachem Estem, Elokim Yinachem Estem? Why Hamakum? Because I believe it's this idea as well. Again, when a person experiences loss, they can feel potentially like nobody can understand what's been taken from them. And in a sense, every person has their own relationship and every person has their own dynamic. And in a sense, nobody can relate to what was taken from them except for Hamakum. Hamakum Yinachem, because Hashem is the one that relates to us, that connects us. He is the place. He is everywhere, and he is there and there and there and there, relating to me at all times, at all aspects, in all positions, in all dynamics, in every aspect of my life. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the only one that can kaviyachol relate to what I'm going through. And that's why it's dafka hamakom yenachem eschem. And that's the idea here as well. That's what Yehoshua ben Hanani was teaching. Yes, we might have been disassociated from our land, from the direct connection, but we still have a HaKadosh Baruch Hu with us at all times, wherever we are. You know, the Chavetz Chaim, there's a famous idea from the Chavetz Chaim. And that idea is that, again, you could fast forward it generations, but the Chavetz Chaim was one of the famous things he said was that he asked him, how could it be that if we believe that the previous generations were so much smarter than the later generations, again, we discussed this in previous years. Now, again, you can argue and say, okay, we have more information, we have more tech, whatever it is. How could it be that they didn't come up with the same? How could it be that only in the last 300 years, again, bringing the Chavetz Chaim into it, were all these crazy inventions created, more than any other time? So he said that it's because we need them now. Not because we need them because we're a global economy, and that we need them because they help us relate to the Ribono Shel Olam. Meaning, 1,000 years ago, if you said to somebody, when I daven, Hashem hears me, that was simple. But someone in the 1800s will say, what does that mean that I could say? There was a chalishas, there was a lacking that would say, how can it be that I could speak and someone could hear me miles and miles away? Oh, so you know what? Hashem put a spark into someone's mind, the telephone. Now I understand what it means that I could speak over here and you could hear me all the way over there. That's what tefillah is, right? I speak here and someone else can hear me over there. And the same thing, he goes through a bunch of different examples, but one of the latest ones is the concept of GPS. GPS, what's a GPS? GPS is, it helps you get around. It knows where you are. It's satellite, right? What's the vart of GPS? Why do we need GPS? Because we're a generation that we feel so alone. Whether it's because of gullus, whether it's whatever dynamic you are, we feel very alone. What does GPS come to teach us? That there's always somebody who knows where you are. There's always somebody who knows exactly where you are. And you can take it even further now with Waze. And if you go the wrong way, they'll recalculate for you. Help you recalculate. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with us at every step of the way. He's with us at all times. He's there guiding us. No matter where we are, you can point there, you can point there, you can point there. And you know what? You can keep your measuring sticks and you can keep your rulers and you can try to measure it. It doesn't really make a difference because we believe, b'leiv shalem, that Hashem is with us. That Hashem is with us always. And that was the message of Yehoshua ben Hanani in this one as well. I'm not going to do the next test because we're short on time and I don't want to rush it. But just to review what we said tonight, we spoke about the two tests, the next two tests, text number 5 and text number 6. Number 5 again was build us a house in the sky. Yehoshua says the name of Hashem, jumps up to the sky, and he says, okay, give me the bricks. What was the message? So the Maharal explained to us that we believe that yes, our soul is bound in our human body, but we have the potential, we have the ability, the capability to go well beyond that, to fly beyond that. What limits us? Yes, our physicality, but we see there are people that are physical that grow, that strive. What really limits us is our labels. And our job is to realize that if we drop those labels, if we drop those self-imposed restrictions, then we have the ability to fly up to the sky as well. That was point number 1. Point number 2, again, Shoma is the center of the world. Where is the center? He points. They say, measure. How do you know? He says to go measure. What did we say? We said 2 things. First of all, we see that even Rabbi Yehoshua ben Hanani was an expert in the scientific method of saying that, don't ask me questions that you don't know the answers to yourselves and nobody can answer. But more than that, we said the idea being that even in galus, even in darkness, even in our darkest and lowest and loneliest points, we're never truly alone. Because Baruch Hu is always with us. And if you remember that point, then Mir Hashem, those dark times become light. And maybe perhaps, those dark times are what often help, I don't mean to be like, to link them together for the sake of linking them together, but very often those labels, they come from those dark points. We see the negative side of ourselves and we create those labels. So Mir Hashem, we should be zocheh to recognize that at every point we have a HaKadosh Baruch Hu by our side, rooting for us, telling us that we can do it beyond whatever labels we set. And if we tap into that, then Amir Hashem, we too can tap in with the Shem of Hashem to fly high above, to strive higher and higher and higher as we march towards the Amir Hashem, the holiday next week of Shavuos, and we renew ourselves with the Torah and the connection to the Ribono Shel Olam. We should all be zocheh. Okay. Again, just if anyone wasn't, I'm going to stop the recording. But if anyone wasn't